What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 161 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined, as always, by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
Hi.
We're back, baby. Reunited, and it feels so good.
Yeah, dream team back together.
Oh, yeah.
For a crazy week, too. I mean, we got last week, Ken and I were talking about Pokemon leaks. That was a huge one. We got another huge leak this week because if you guys remember, it was earlier this month in October, right? Nintendo put out this statement inviting people to sign up for a playtest that was going to be taking place on Nintendo Switch Online. It was exclusively for folks that were expansion pass subscribers, and that there was going to be an event that began just yesterday on October 21st. But literally, like the day before this event kicks off, there's a big leak, and the website that exists for all the folks that are involved in the playtest went up, and everybody saw it. And we learned a lot about this big game.
Honestly, like, what did they expect? Like, genuinely, what did they expect? This was bound to leak immediately. And the fact that they're trying to take down any pictures or information about it is just, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, you invited 10,000 people to test it. 10,000? Yeah. And, like, that's not going to stay quiet. It really isn't. All it takes is one. And I'm sure it wasn't just one person that shared it.
Particularly that, like, you know, it was just general users that they invited, right? Like, it would be one thing if it was like, oh, we're going to do a close thing with, like, you know, a certain
family, you know? That
yeah, or like press, something like that, where it's like a little bit more controlled, but it's like, no, it's like literally like just anybody that got in. So it's,
like, all you gotta do is just have the expansion pass and say, yes, I will do this.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, oh no, like I'm gonna get a bunch of clout and Nintendo's gonna, like, what, kick me out of the beta? It's like, all right, like, you know, I'm not surprised that people
know
were.
It's you from an anonymous Twitter account. They're not.
Yeah,
there's
that's a good point.
No clue.
It'd have to be connected to your Nintendo account, right? That's the only way they'd know.
Posting on the Nintendo website under your Nintendo account, like, I got to do it.
You're on, like, their message board, and you're like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like you said, Steve, I mean, you were razzing them like a week or two ago, right? About how their security is just kind of like famously.
I know, I got in trouble for that.
Yeah, you got some flack for that opinion, and but I mean, to your point, right? It's like, man, their cybersecurity is such a joke, you know?
Yeah, not only did, like, the website get leaked, but this thing's been data mined to high heaven. We knew all about it before the playtest had even gone live. It was kind of just insane that all of this had leaked out, and I don't know why they just weren't public about it. Like, hey, this is what it is, you know. In the same way that we've seen these playtests before, but for ARMS and for Splatoon, we had, like, the test fire for Splatoon. People knew what it was. I guess maybe this is not just a network test, which it probably is, but also an actual play test to find out if this game is actually fun.
I think that's probably the reason, right? Is like it's more of a core concept test, and that they're not totally sure, like, about the idea, or like that they're still in that, you know, they're planning to continue to iterate or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And that they're not ready to talk about it because what it is still probably in flux quite a bit. But I mean, like you said, right? There's a user over on Blue Sky who goes by Sky, that you can go find all of the you know, data mining that they've been doing over there. I believe she, her pronouns, and she has leaked a ton of stuff. It was all up on a big Dropbox that got taken down. There's a ton of mirrors up already. Obviously, you know, whenever there's a leak like this, we're not going to share a link to the leaked information. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to provide you with a link to go get it because that's against the rules. But yeah, Sky on Blue Sky. You can go. It's sky.femboyfurry.net. So if you want to go check out the stuff that's been leaking, it's there. It's all over Reddit. You'll find it if you want to look for it. If you'd like a visual aid as we talk about this stuff. But let's talk about a little bit about what we learned, because, you know, not to bury the lead, right? It's looking like this is a, you know, sandbox-based, user-generated, content-focused competitor to games like Roblox and Fortnite, and I guess to a lesser extent Minecraft. And, you know, basically the leaks that we've seen kind of seem to break down the core gameplay loop into these kind of two sections, that there are these places called beacon zones, and then there's like a main overworld that you'll interact with. And the leaks specifically say that players will be, quote, beacons that emit a, quote, healing light to develop the land. And then beacons are being explained as like you basically are able to stake your claim on a piece of the planet. And then within that, you know, beacon zone, you'll be able to, quote, move, lift, or edit items within a highlighted area. And you'll only be able to edit a space that's there. I don't understand what that means out of context quite, but that's the explanation there. But then it says basically outside of beacon zones, any place outside of a beacon zone is considered a public area, and that's an area that anyone can work in, and that's where you like anybody can place items, edit them. They talked about it being like the kind of overall goal of the game is like you and every other player is expanding the reach of the world through like exploration and crafting and discovering items that you can use as resources and fighting new enemies. And so it to me, it kind of sounds like maybe your beacon is like your home base, and that, you know, everybody goes out and interacts with the overworld to build out the shape of the overworld, like that you actually are experiencing like moment to moment when you're out like hunting for resources or combat or building, any of that kind of stuff. Was that kind of the read that you guys got, or did you interpret it differently?
I think so. I mean, it says that the beacons are special tools on the how to develop section on the actual website. It says these beacons emit a healing light that purifies and develops the land. The higher your beacon is placed, the wider its beacon zone becomes. Within your beacon zone, your best work can be done, and players repeat the process until the planetary block is considered fully developed. So I guess maybe there's like a PvP element of everyone's trying to put their beacon down and work within their zone before someone else comes along to put their beacon down, and maybe everyone's working together with these shared resources to build up the planet. It's very unusual, and I don't think we're really going to have a full grasp on what these beacons are or what it is until people start playing it.
What about you, Sierra? What do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say the way I interpreted it was like the beacon zones are like your personal like zone that
Right.
you build in, and it's kind of like a home base, and then I guess outside of that is kind of like an overworld where you can then collaborate if you wish. But um
I'm very
I think like
confused by like the mechanics of like, is that something that you move, or is it like a permanent zone that
right,
you set
think
up
it
and like do you need to
moves.
just build taller? Is that it? To like have
to
like the
have a
greatest beacon
larger?
zone?
Yeah, like how
Yeah.
does that work, right? Like, can you literally like, could you like theoretically like build a skyscraper or something and then have
Right, like
like,
is that what they want?
and it's
You
like,
Yeah,
know?
in one of the screenshots, that's what they've got. It looks like someone's built like giant staircases and put their beacon at the top, and then you can see like the zone coming out of it is wider. And I guess
yeah,
you want to maybe try and claim the land with your beacons.
yeah, and like to your point, right? There's a section where it's kind of showing each of them. They're like in these little glass domes almost. Like they look like it's like a city in a bubble or something.
Yeah.
And they show all these different like ways that like people are building like tall structures that expand their sphere of influence. But like I'm interested in like what is that? Like, what does that mean, right? Because like, is it like a thing that I start and then I'm gradually building up? Like, if somebody else's beacon is near mine, are we fighting for space, or like, you know? Because it says that there's like a system of combat, right? And that like when you're in the overworld, it says, with the Nintendo Switch Online Playtest program, we aim to test the boundaries of mass multiplayer functionality and gameplay on our servers. And then it says, as you progress across the planet, you'll discover new lands, enemies, and resources that will become essential to your journey. And they talk about that you develop the planet by farming those resources and then being creative. So it's like, are the beacons can I put a beacon anywhere? Is it anywhere in between two beacons? Is like the wild zone, like, it's like if I get killed out there, I go back to my beacon. Can my beacon be conquered or destroyed? Like it's like something out of like Ark, right? Where like you're like having to fight for influence, and then there's like the thing about how like when the planet section becomes fully developed or whatever. So it's like, is there a point where then the beacons are like locked and they can't move? And how does that work? Is that server based? It's a lot of questions for me on this one.
Yeah, it's a real strange one. Because I don't know, looking at the picture of the planet that they've got, that necessarily there are spaces that you can build on. Like, are the dark squares places that aren't fully developed? So maybe I could go there and I can plant my beacon on those places and claim those squares and try and build it as much as possible. But what's the goal? Like, it says the game's purpose is to kind of progress across the planet and work with others. Are we kind of all working in harmony? Because there is some other leaks from Sky where she has seemingly found bits that relate to PvP, that there's
Right.
references to mechs in the game. So like, is there a specific area that's just PvP? Because that's what the leak that Sky has found, which seems to be background music for the PvP area. Maybe there's like creative zones, maybe there's PvP zones. It's very strange. It's very I'm really intrigued by it.
And like I'm interested in the like you mentioned the thing about the squares, right? And you're like exploring across the planet. So like is the point of it that like we as players are going to build out this planet, and then if I come in as a new player, the thing that I'm exploring across is whatever people have built? Like is the landscape
like, is
always
like
evolving?
Like that Reddit place, r/our place or whatever it's called, and it's like everyone builds to kind of work on these squares on Reddit. Maybe it's similar to that, like everyone's kind of looking to claim a square. Maybe when a beacon's there you can't do anything, someone's working in that zone, but when the beacon's gone it's kind of fair game and you can claim that area and do what you want to it, and you can be maybe building up and up and up or across the planet. And I would imagine as it builds up, there's less and less things to do. But it sounds like you need to collect resources, and there's maybe a finite amount of stuff. Like if there's enemies and resources that you need to find, it may be that it's more difficult to build than we expect, and you're going to need to go out and venture out into those areas, potentially into a PvP zone, in order to find things.
And I guess like that could lead to like an economy or something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing these up on eBay. People selling like
their plots,
selling little blocks and things. Like, yeah, you can have my area. Come to this space, and I'll get rid of my zone, and you can take it over.
Yeah, I mean, like, but again, right? Like, my question, like, immediately goes back to that point that Sierra made. So it's like, do you just build up then? Like, does that discourage you from making things that are actually dynamic and interesting, or is it like, are we all just competing to build the biggest tower? Like, I don't. I think so many questions.
Like it seems like it's a collaborative thing, and like the bit where it's like players will repeat the process until their planetary block is fully developed. Like, what decides that it's fully developed? Does the user decide, like, hey, I'm cool with this. This looks good. It's how I want it to be. Like, I've creatively put my stamp on this planetary block, and I'm going to move on to another one? Or does the game set a limit? Like, you can build a certain amount on these blocks. Like, you can put 5 things down, or you can scope, like, landscape it this much, in the same way that you would in Animal Crossing, for example. Like, you'd be able to put a finite number of items down. You'd be able to sculpt the landscape in a specific way.
Yeah, but how do you do that for 10,000 players?
I know. And then even if they blow this thing wide open, even more than that.
Yeah, and like, what is the cap on that? Is that like is it as many players as want to play live in one world, and we're all living in this like living, breathing space, or is it 10,000 players to a server?
Some unfettered micro society that in time will accidentally introduce itself to capitalism.
Well, I have a lot of questions about that aspect of it too. Like when we get to the talking points in a minute here, because like I'm very interested by that element of it, and like how Nintendo's going to moderate that, given like their normal attitudes about that sort of thing. But so before we start prognosticating, I want to share a few more things that we definitely know. So there a bunch of materials right in the leaked stuff like has a large emphasis on user generated content. It says specifically players can, quote, make all sorts of different UCG or UGC in game, and then you have to take a test that shows that you, quote, understand the importance of respectful communication before you're allowed to actually share anything. And if you take a look at one of the sources that we have in our document that I won't be sharing in the description because I don't want to get in trouble with Nintendo, go check out Reddit. Steve, you were talking about how there's like the source that's talking about like the mini games and the mechs and the character creator and the PvP stuff. There's also like a social area, right? And then in some of the UGC, there was I'm trying to find this other little bit here. You know what? I'm gonna look for this note and talk to me about the user generated content of it all, because I have a lot of questions about how Nintendo, being as kind of control oriented as they are, is gonna handle a game that has a significant amount of user generated content.
Well, I don't think we know what it is. I don't know if it's user-generated content in the same way that it's like Roblox user-generated content where people can make their own games and people can find it. It just seems like everyone's kind of just
Building.
blocks out, and like, isn't that just the same as, say, Minecraft, where people are building stuff together? And I know that's not a Nintendo game, but you can get on a Minecraft game with a huge group of friends. You could jump on a server with like 50, 60 people if you wanted. I don't know what the limit on those servers is. Presumably there is one, but it's not going to be 10,000. I don't know that it's 10,000 people will plan on the same server here. It could just be they want 10,000 people and they're going to have like 10 instances. Maybe they'll have 1,000 instances, and there's a certain number of people that are on each individual server all working together to see what they do. When it comes to the dev core like player base, I mean, that looks very much like something like Rec Room. And it looks like you can just go there and you can play like board games with friends. Like there's Connect 4 and Reversey and a bunch of stuff like that's there. I'd be interested to see if you can build things like that on the actual planet itself. Like, can I build out a building that my friends can come visit me in, and like we can kind of chill out together and we can talk to each other? Can we communicate?
Or like, can like random players do that, right? If it's a game that's supposed to be about like collaborative building and stuff, like, is that like, can I build like a space on the planet that other people like come and check out like on purpose, right? Like, it's like I'm trying to make something, right? Like a place for an event to happen or whatever, right? Like, can I create a point of interest, or is it just like you're coming through my base and you get my sense of personality or creativity or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah, but having said that, if you can build anything, there's going to be dicks and boobs galore on the planet.
Yeah.
Within minutes.
Right. Oh, so I found the note I was looking for. So to upload user-generated content, you have to answer 20 questions. And playtesters are going to be taking in daily surveys, and then there's going to be a final one at the end, and that's like part of how they're, I guess, planning on moderating things, is just like making you take like an ethics test. But it's like, how hard is it to just click all the right things and then make your dick tower anyway?
And what kids reading that? No one.
No, right.
They'll just Google the right answers. Someone's going to know the right answers straight away. And just put it up online.
Yeah, so that's something I definitely have a lot of questions about, is like, how are they going to manage some of these like common problems that come up with these kinds of games? Because I mean, online functionality, social functionality is like really not their strong suit, right? It's an area that they're kind of famously behind the times. So you have to wonder, how are they going to deal with some of these problems?
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if this is the actual game, or if they've put this together as a tech test for something that we don't know about. This is going to be, these are characters that they're just generic blobs, and we're never going to see them again. And they've just done it for this. Same with the planet stuff. Like, maybe they end up building something with this tech that they're trying out with 10,000 people, and this is just literally a test, and no one's ever going to play it again.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, that's happened in the past, right? Like Splatoon was originally like a Mario demo, right? So it's like,
well, yeah, and it was like tofu blocks to begin with, right? And then it was rabbits, and then it eventually became Squid Kids.
Right. So I do want to answer some of these questions because I imagine that you guys have some thoughts on this stuff, like I have thinking about it today. So we're going to jump into that in a second here, but before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise has been brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of October. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You all the real to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to check out those shows, the Flip Screen Games podcast or the Steam Deck podcast, where we talk about what's going on in the world of video games outside of Nintendo, go check them out. I think if you enjoyed this show, you will enjoy those shows as well. That is the Flip Screen Games seal of approval, as Max likes to call it, and then I stole. So go check that stuff out. If you want to get involved right into the show, all the other fun ways that you can, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you'll find links to all the places that we are all over the glorious and disgusting internet. However you choose to get involved, thanks for being here. So this was another little tidbit I wanted to share before we get into the tea leave reading is what yeah, there we go. Okay, I got there. So the word on the street is that this is a project being worked on by Nintendo EPD Production Group 4, who is the team that has worked on a lot of the like wackier Nintendo projects that have actually been successful. They are the team that worked on Labo. They're the team that, not the best example of one of the successes, but they also worked on Ring Fit, obviously a big W.
Nice.
Brain Age, obviously a big W. And then most recently they were involved in Alarmo as well, the Nintendo alarm clock that we have not gotten a chance to talk about because they're
honestly, how have we not spoken about it? I really want that alarm clock.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's not made for people that have sex. But I mean, I guess I guess that's fair. So anyway, I think not super surprising that this is the team heading this up, since it is like a wacky, out of the box kind of thing, but definitely interesting to look at their other projects, which are very like peripheral oriented, and like
it's weird.
This is so different,
Strange. Yeah. I presume that they also were behind Game Builder Garage as well, if they did Labo, because that was kind of like an extension of that. And this maybe feels like it's a further extension from, because that was a kind of tiptoe into user generated content.
Sure.
And it feels like this is maybe
that's a good point.
Some more user-generated content here. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen user-generated content from Nintendo, and they've done a decent job at monitoring, I would say. I mean, all the way back on Splatoon and the Miiverse, you could draw things and post it. Then there was, Mario Maker, where we've had custom levels, and we've never really seen anything massively obscene. I'd imagine they do have some kind of system that can filter stuff out and maybe puts people into a little sandbox on their own so they can't ruin everyone else's experience.
Yeah, I'm interested in that's a good point. I hadn't considered that not being a big problem in stuff like Mario Maker, or even Splatoon, right, where there's like the drawings and everything. It's like you'd think that would be like rife for that kind of problem. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm still wondering, like, I don't know, like, how do you deal with that, right? Like, it's obvious, like, we've talked in the past about how it's like, it's a, well-documented, reported problem in stuff like Roblox, right? Where there is like age-inappropriate content being served to younger users, and, issues with, stuff like copyright infringement and like, people like using licensed characters that are recognizable and attractive to children to then like show them something fucked up, yeah, it's like
YouTube Kids.
Yeah, right. Like that was literally a huge problem, right? Like that's why that exists. So, not to say that, it's an impossible problem, but yeah, like, I mean, community moderation is not something that they have a ton of experience with, like, I mean, brought up some examples I hadn't thought of, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, isn't that so much more difficult when you're talking about like thousands of concurrent users in a living, breathing world? Like,
It's dependent on it being thousands of people, and we don't know how many people are playing together.
that's true.
We know there's 10,000 in the playtest. It could be you play with 4 people, and that's it. I would hope it's more
How the
than
hell
that.
would that work? You know, that's an even crazier question. I think the only thing that I thought was particularly interesting for them that's like maybe in their favor is that because Roblox is like so popular but has that kind of stink of like not really being a safe place for kids, if you do even like a little bit of digging, like maybe Nintendo has an opportunity to kind of present like a better moderated, more controlled alternative that still kind of stokes that like creative gene but is, you know, maybe a little bit more age appropriate. But then I wonder, like, isn't part of the success of things like Roblox and Fortnite and everything like the communication and the community element and how open it is, right? And like you gotta imagine that whatever this is, it's not going to be that.
I mean, Roblox was like it is a video game engine, and you can make whatever you want in it. And you can make games in Minecraft. I don't know that that's what this is. I don't know that there's going to be that level here. It really feels like I'm building on a planet.
It sounds more to me like a Minecraft server, right?
It does, yeah. It seems like a Minecraft server with like, you know, Nintendo spin on it, and then a social hub that I can maybe go hang out and play some Connect 4 with some friends. And that seems like what it is. But, you know, it does remain to be seen if there is more to that. It could be that this is part of a bigger project that is their kind of spin on Roblox and their own kind of take. I kind of feel like Game Builder Garage could have been that. It could have had something there. Mario Maker could have been that. They could have expanded upon that and added in some different game modes and stuff. I mean, they've got a huge roster of characters that they could utilize and put into various places. And it's strange that Roblox is really the only company that's been able to do anything like that. You know, I guess Fortnite sort of comes close with its user-generated game modes, but it's not quite the same. You can't really customize it and do anything that you want in it.
It's not the
same way you
point
can with
of it
Roblox.
in the way that Roblox is, right? Like that's the whole hook of that game rather than being like a thing that you can do.
Yeah, and it's become an economy in and of itself. You know, you can make money on it, you can buy things on it, you can do what you want. You know, there's a great documentary by People Make Games on YouTube which exposes how terrible Roblox is for children, and I recommend everyone watches it and finds out. But
I know a lot of you who listen to us are parents. Like if you've got friends that are parents that are not gamers, I would show that to them and make sure that they know what's going on over there, because as someone who's vehemently pro children playing video games and socializing through video games,
they won't be playing on Roblox.
I wouldn't let my kids play Roblox. You know, like that's, and you know, it shouldn't be that way, but it is, and they obviously are more interested in the extreme amount of money that they're making than they are in making the platform safer and moderating content more effectively. So I mean, there is potentially a gap in the market there that Nintendo can come in and.
There is, but I don't know that I trust Nintendo to fill that gap. You know, they've not had a great track record with online experiences at all. I've never really seen them thrive in this area, and I can't see them doing it now. You know, are they really going to launch their own marketplace to allow people to do that? I don't think so. I feel like this could be the next big game that comes out on the Switch 2 that is, you know, their arms for the next generation, like their new IP that they're going to mess around with. Or maybe this becomes like a Switch Online thing. It's like the Switch Online hub, and you go there and you can play these games, and then you can also go away and build this world and do stuff. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be much more than that.
That'd be interesting.
In its current form.
If it was like something more like akin to like Miiverse or whatever, but like a game.
Yeah.
PlayStation. Like... That's a good shout. Yeah. So I have a couple other like specific questions I want to pose to the two of you, but like before we jump down that rabbit hole, I'm kind of interested in like hearing more like of what your initial reactions were, like when you read this report and when you saw this stuff. Like Sierra, when you like when we heard about this at the beginning of the month, and then we get this leak a couple days ago, like, was this what you were expecting? Like, what was your initial read on this?
No, like, I really did not think they were gonna try to tackle the PvP online multiplayer market at all. I mean, we had heard rumors in the Pokemon leaks of there being some sort of MMO, but, like, I took that with a grain of salt. I'm shocked that this is what it is. I really fully expected, um, it to be, like, a completely new Nintendo IP, and that was why they needed to play test this in such a grand scale because they felt like they were making some big gamble, and it's, like, establishing something new. So I don't even feel like like Steve referenced earlier, I don't even think that all the assets that we are seeing here are like the final design. I really think it's just like this a blob with like the framework of what they want to bring to market, and they're just seeing how it like hits people's eyes and ears.
Yeah, I mean the
Um
characters look like Fall Guys
yeah,
somewhat.
they're just Fall Guys with monkey ears. Like they're big blobs.
Yeah,
Um
the one guy that like they show you controlling just straight up is like it's like a little it's like a Russian nesting doll body shape but with like monkey ears.
Yeah, and like really big long legs.
Little
Yeah.
bean.
what if this is a ploy to bring a Super Monkey Ball MMO to the
Oh, I'm
PC?
back in.
I'm invested now. Just kidding, but I don't. I'm just kind of like a wait and see guy with a lot of stuff, but especially this. I don't feel like excited at the prospect because I guess I'm not the target audience for this anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what is the big catch that Nintendo does that will separate them from Roblox and Minecraft? Like, what will be the thing? And I don't feel like I'm seeing this from this league.
That is the thing I've been racking my brain about. Like, that's the number one question I have is like, we've been talking a lot over the past like year or two, even, right? Over on the Flip Screen Games podcast, Steve and I, about like how it seems like games as a service is, I don't want to say on its way out, right? I don't think that's a thing. I think that like that model will always exist in some format.
It's just a lot of fatigue for it. I think people are tired of everything being a game as a service at this point.
And I think that there's the very realistic outside of gamer attitudes things that are leading to that too, right? Like there is the like maybe we're just that this trend has been going on for so long that we're ready for something new. Happens all the time. But I think on some level it's also like the financial reality of it that like people have less money to spend right now and less money to spend on microtransactions and like getting invested in a game that's going to ask you to swipe your card again and again and again and again. And
You think that's what this would be? Because I don't see Nintendo going down the microtransactions route.
That's one of my other questions. So it's like you both are touching on like this laundry list of questions I have about how Nintendo specifically as a company makes a game like this profitable, right? Like one of the things that came to mind for me is that like, so the games that this is being compared to, right, are broadly anyway, Roblox, Fortnite, and to a lesser extent Minecraft, right? So like let's operate under those as a frame of reference. All of those games are already very well established, right? Like most of them have been around, like Minecraft is over 10 years old, Roblox is over 10 years old. It only got popular within the last couple of years, but it's been around for a really long time. And Fortnite's, been on the top of the pile for what, like 8 years or something like that now, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so you're putting out this new game, right, that's somewhat similar to these at least, right? It seems like it's trying to compete with them from the outside. And it's like these games are already years into their development. There's tons and tons of content, and then there's also like a bunch of players that are already deeply entrenched, right? So it's like, is Nintendo going to be able to solve this problem that I think all of these games, like any new games as a service game, struggles with, which is like pulling people away from games that they're already playing, that they might have years worth of investment in, whether that's time or money. Like,
I think they could though. Like if it's compelling enough, if it's got a decent skin on it, if this shove Animal Crossing on this and this is like, Animal Crossing World or whatever, people will be all over it, I
Sure.
don't think it will be. I think it probably would be something fresh, but I feel like they could do it if they wanted to. I think you could probably make it free if it's just this, if it's just a social hub and a world that you kind of build on. You can make that free as part of Switch Online. People to try it out.
Can you though? Because then it's like, I mean, it's literally just a thing to get you in Switch Online. Is like, is that going to make enough money? Because it's not only like the amount of time.
There's not much else on that expansion pass, right? Like, what's the new thing this year?
Yeah.
Like last year, we got Mario Kart, we got the Splatoon DLC. What else have we got? Nothing recently. They need something else to kind of keep us hooked.
For sure.
With that, because otherwise people will just unsub.
I don't know. I just struggle to see how you support the financials on that, right? And maybe it is that like this game is like that's part of why it's very focused on user generated content, right? Is that like if it's UGC, then you don't have to spend as much on development, right? You create a core system and then you let people go wild with it, and like that's how you make it sustainable. But I mean, it's whatever the cost of years of development plus then like maintaining servers and keeping.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how long they keep the servers on for, right? They turned off Mario Makers pretty promptly.
Sure. They killed Mario 35 right away, right? So
yeah,
happens. So yeah, I mean,
that skip jump rope challenge stuck around, but Mario 35 went in the bin.
Fantastic point. But yeah, like I don't know, like I do wonder about that, right? Like it's like, how do they monetize this kind of game if they're not going to have microtransactions, and if they're not going to have microtransactions, and it's going to be a boxed copy kind of game or a game that's full price, even at a reduced price? Is it facing down a Concord situation where it's like, yeah, why would I pay to play this walled off Nintendo game that none of my friends are on when all my friends are already on Roblox and I already have that on my whatever device I already play it on,
Yeah, you're probably playing that on your iPad or your phone or whatever, but I feel like it's maybe different.
That takes me to the other question though, right? Is all these other games we described, they're all multi-platform. All of them are on Android or iOS and PC and consoles. And this is only going to be on a Nintendo product or console.
There's no chance it's going anywhere else. But does that matter? Like, Nintendo's never struggled to sell software. No. I know ARMS and Splatoon 3 maybe didn't sell as well as they wanted to and didn't kind of resonate.
Those games aren't built around user-generated content, though. Like,
No, they're not.
It's like, is this not a dream situation where it's like, there was a lot of people that owned a PlayStation 4, but not a lot of people bought that game. So then there wasn't a lot of content. There wasn't a lot of stuff,
That's why I think you make it free. It's like, just give it away. It's part of the subscription. It's something else for people to play and do, and give a reason for people to come back every day. If there's a hook for me to come back, it's like, I want to, you got to keep your plot as yours.
Yeah.
People are going to come and invade it, and it can tell me that.
That'd be interesting. If that's how they keep you on the hook, is like if you log in every day, your little biome stays protected.
Yeah. Otherwise, people can come and just take it over, Or maybe people come and take it over while I'm away, and I've got to come and fight for it back or something. There's ways to keep people engaged, I think, without having to feed them content for you to buy.
So one of the things that you said a few minutes ago, Sierra, that I was thinking about is like, is this a type of game where Nintendo can just have like a good enough, unique enough gameplay hook that people will be interested? No.
Yeah, I don't think
You're both just like,
because we've yet to see that. Like, obviously, I guess they're not going to play their full hand on like the playtest. They're just like literally like seeing how the mechanics bounce off their player base. But what could they do? I don't know what they could do.
Yeah, I mean, apparently there is some lore and some story in there. Like, you could have something, but I mean, this feels like, do you remember that Netflix game? I think it was called Terra Earth.
I don't remember.
And it was like,
no,
it was like a game where you had to rebuild the Earth. It was like everyone had left the planet after it had been like destroyed, and you kind of came back. No, Terra Nil it was called. And you kind of came back and you built it from nothing. It kind of feels like it's that. Like, I'm going and finding the resources that are available on the planet, and I'm building it up, and we're all doing it together.
Okay.
And there's a PvP element to it as well, and there's also the social hub. I don't think it's anything more than that.
I just don't understand how all those things are in the same game either.
It's weird. That's the thing, right? It doesn't
social
feel
hub,
like it's a cohesive thing.
Overworld where you build biomes and fight for resources in the middle of those biomes, and then also there's like mech fight. It's like, what is this game? What, like, are all these things this? And that's, I didn't even think about that before we sat down, that like maybe it is just like a play test for like systems, and that you guys are right, and that it's just like, this isn't actually a game. It's just like, these are systems we want to use in a future game, and we need to see if they even work or if they're fun.
Yeah, we want to test the network.
We need
code to
data.
see if it can handle 10,000 people.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there is like a leveling up system. There's items that can help you on your journey.
Yeah, it
like,
seems
there is
pretty
some thought
developed for
gone
something
into
that's
it.
not a game.
It does, yeah. But I don't think this is the whole game. I feel like,
Sure.
you go to, what the fuck is dev core? I mean, that doesn't even sound like a real place in a game. It sounds like something that's like under construction. It is in development. And like, you go there, you find all the stuff, and then you just like, you just randomly get ported to the planet. It's not even clear what the game looks like when you're on the ground. Like, are you on the ground? Are you above the ground? Like, controlling it like a Pikmin style thing? We don't really know what the moment-to-moment gameplay looks like with it.
Yeah, this is certainly no Dreamlight Valley situation where we're gonna see all our beloved favorite Mario characters. Like, it's just gonna be something completely different, and it's just like, it's kind of just this nebulous blank on which we can kind of project our own ideas of what it could be.
I don't know
And
what
it's
you're
hard to
talking
get
about. It's my
excited.
favorite Nintendo character, Monkey Bean. So I guess kind of the last like big question I've got around this is like, we talked about before, like how Nintendo is like historically, right, like almost laughably at this point behind the times when it comes to online gaming, and like not even just like the technological side of it though, right? Like not moment to moment how is playing an online game on a Nintendo console. It's also the social elements, right? Like things like having a simple system to add friends or to chat or to share screenshots or achievements or any of those kinds of things, right?
Like, that's what I was really hoping this playtest was like a friend list and like party chat. I genuinely was hoping
so
it was
funny.
like modern social features and not a world that you can go build some stuff on with these
Test
glowing
new
orbs.
features for the Switch 2, like building a party group for a game.
And so I love the idea that it's like they are having you like test that, but it's like there's no games you can play. It's like you just in a chat room.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, great.
A feature with which they've only implemented in fucking Mario Party online. Like I forget which Mario Party game, but that was the only time I used it. That would be funny that they're like setting out to do this PvP thing when you don't even have those features baked into the base Switch model.
Right.
And it's like, is this only going to be Switch 2? Because if you are going to do this on Switch 1 and you don't have that shit on the operating system, how's this going to work?
And it's like, how do you have a game that's like about player collaboration and creativity and like creating a world together when there's virtually no way to actually communicate,
Yeah.
like,
you know what, Pete, I've still got the Switch Online app and I've got the weird little goofy headphone setup. I plug one jack into my phone, I plug one jack into the headphone jack on my Nintendo Switch, and it's no problems. I've never had any issues with that experience, and I think it's just flawless.
never
personally.
once.
No. But I don't get it, and also presumably you're going to be playing with strangers because there's only one person in like I know who has got into this, and that's Chewy, and none of us are playing it. Presumably not many of Chewy's friends are in there.
I don't think he knows anyone that's in it.
So he's going to get bundled up with strangers, and he's got to try and collaborate, but not be able to really communicate with them, probably outside of doing signs or something.
Some kind
game.
of emote system or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which
that
like
just doesn't seem great.
I don't know, because it's like there are examples of that, right? Like it's like I think of like a game like Journey, where it's like that's a core part of that game is like interacting with another player and not being able to talk to each other and helping. But it's like, that's not a game where I'm like building a little world, It's like it just the things about like it feels like such a game that is oriented around social systems, right? So for it to be on a Nintendo console where it's like, like, what is that even going to be like moment to moment? Or like, you know, if we did want to play together, right? Like, say the three of us were like, I am really excited about this, and we heard about it from Chewy, and let's all play together. It's like, can we even do that? Is that even an option?
I think you can, because that's what they talk about with the dev core. But that's where you go to gather with other players, level up your character, and then you can
Go out
commune
together?
with others. So presumably you
Okay.
can all go out onto the planet together and go to specific places. There's got to be some kind of fast travel system. I presume we can all teleport to, say, my beacon, and then we can explore from there.
That also raises or answers some of the questions we brought up earlier, though, right? Because it's like, wouldn't that imply that there's only one world then?
Not necessarily, no, because I could maybe meet you in dev core and we go somewhere else. I don't know.
But how does that work? Like, what, you come to my server and I don't know.
It's the same, but that's the same deal with, say, Fallout 76. You know, there's like multiple servers, and my camp is set up on a certain instance of a planet.
Yeah, I guess it could be that simple, where it's just like the dev core is like server based. So if you want to play with your friends, you have to be on the same server, right? Like, that's how it worked in like World of Warcraft back in the day or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, gang. This is a very fun conversation. I feel like I have more questions walking away from it than answers.
You know, we're just gonna have to try and get our friend to breach his non-disclosure agreement.
Steve, stop outing him. That now when I come with a bunch of insider information, they're gonna know exactly where it came from.
It was not from that person. Yeah, not at all.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly he got in. I'm not sure that that's true. He lives on the other side of the country. How would I know that?
Exactly. You weren't in the dev core. You couldn't have communicated that to one another.
Exactly.
There was no way to see.
So, folks, I'm so interested to hear what other people think about this. I want to hear, is this something that you want from Nintendo? Is this an idea that you are interested in at all? If you're, you know, somebody like the three of us and like you don't really traditionally gravitate towards this genre, is it something that you think maybe Nintendo could get you in on, right? You know, I think they have that for a lot of people. How many people are there that play Smash but don't really fuck with fighting games, right? Or play Splatoon but don't really like shooters? Maybe that this is, you know, their next opportunity to do something like that. So I'm interested to hear if this is a thing that anybody is like really excited for, or is this a thing that you guys are largely kind of like, maybe my kids will enjoy it, right? I'm interested to hear. So if you guys want to write in and let us know, flipscreen.games, that's a website where you'll find links to all the places that we are all over the web. You can write into the show. You can go check out our sister shows, the Steam Deck Podcast and the Flipscreen Games Podcast. You can come join our Discord and keep the conversation rolling between episodes. All that and much more over at flipscreen.games. However you want to get involved, thank you oh so much for joining us on another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete. She's been Sierra. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week.